we are talking about the blood type O diet today. Now, what makes this easy for me is because I'm a blood type O.
There is something strange about type O blood. Something most people refuse to believe until they see the evidence with their own eyes. Scientists have discovered facts that sound impossible. Doctors have witnessed things that make no sense at first. And millions of people walk around completely unaware of what is flowing through their veins. This is about real science that challenges everything we assume about how our bodies work. Why has this information been hiding in plain sight for so long? What makes type O blood so different from everything else? Join us as we reveal the shocking truth that no one saw coming. The first human blood. Scientists believe that tens of thousands of years ago, nearly all humans carried type O blood. And it was not one option among many, but the default, the foundation, the biological starting point for a species that had not yet learned to farm, build shelter, or survive anything but the wild. Blood types A and B came later, emerging as humans began to settle, grow crops, and live in groups. But in the beginning, there was only O, and it was enough.
Type O, they have no antigens on their surface, which is why type O can be the universal donor.
Type O blood is often called the universal donor because it lacks certain proteins that trigger rejection in other blood types. But this is not just a medical fact. It is a clue, a fingerprint left behind by evolution itself. When the first humans roamed the earth, their blood had to be simple, strong, adaptable, because there were no blood banks, no surgeries, no transfusions. If you were injured, you either healed or you did not, and your blood had to carry you through infection, starvation, predators, and injuries that would kill most people today. Type O was built for that world. Early humans did not eat the same foods we do now. They hunted meat. They gathered what they could find. And their bodies were designed to digest protein, fight parasites, and recover from wounds in harsh conditions. Type O blood evolved alongside that lifestyle, and it was not gentle, it was not fragile, it was functional. The people who survived passed this blood type to their children, generation after generation, century after century, until type O became the genetic memory of survival itself. Today, billions of people walk around with type O blood running through their veins, living in cities, eating processed food, taking medicine, never having hunted for survival, but their blood has not forgotten. Inside every type O body is a system built for a world that no longer exists. A world where strength mattered more than comfort, where survival was not guaranteed, where blood had to do more than just carry oxygen. It had to keep you alive when nothing else could. And that design is still there. Quiet, functional, waiting. Most people do not know this. They see blood as something that flows, something that bleeds, something doctors measure in labs, but they do not see it as a record of who we used to be, but it is. If type O was built for survival, what is it still protecting us from today? The emergency room secret. Every hospital has a quiet rule that most patients never hear about, and when someone arrives bleeding, unconscious, or dying, there is no time to ask questions, no time to run tests, no time to wait around when the patient might only have minutes left to live. In those moments, doctors reach for one blood type more than any other. Type O positive. It is not just a preference, it is what they are trained to do. Because type O positive can be given to roughly 85% of all patients without causing a deadly reaction. And when every second counts and death is right around the corner, this blood type becomes the go-to answer. But most people walking past a hospital never think about this. They just assume blood is blood, that it all works the same way, that modern medicine has figured everything out. And they have no idea that behind every emergency room door, one blood type is quietly holding everything together. Blood banks know this better than anyone. They watch their supplies like hawks. And type O is always the first one to run out. Not because people need it once in a while, but because they need it all the time. Car crash victims, people in surgery, babies fighting for their lives, gunshot wounds, women bleeding during childbirth, all of them might need type O before doctors even know their names. The need never stops, and the donations never keep up. Hospitals store as much as they can. They ration it when supplies run low. They beg people to donate during shortages. And when they do not have enough, surgeries get pushed back. Procedures get canceled. And doctors are forced to make impossible choices, all because this one blood type carries the weight of the entire system. This is not because type O is rare. Actually, it is the most common blood type in a lot of places. Millions of people have it. But way more people need it. And that gap creates a problem most people never see or think about. Blood donation centers do not really talk about this part. They just ask everyone to donate. They thank every person who shows up. But behind the scenes, the conversation is totally different. Type O is the priority, always, because without it, the whole emergency system starts to break down. There is no backup plan, no fake blood that works just as well. No miracle cure sitting in some lab somewhere, just real human blood from strangers who decided to donate, stored in fridges, used to save people who will never meet or thank the person who saved their life. And most of those people who donate are carrying type O. The public sees ads for blood drives. They walk past posters asking for donations, but nobody tells them the whole truth, that some blood types are not just helpful, but absolutely necessary. That without people donating type O blood regularly, hospitals would be making heartbreaking decisions every single day. This whole system depends on it, quietly, invisibly, built right into how emergency medicine works. And because it usually works out, nobody really talks about it. The system keeps running, people get saved, blood keeps moving through the pipeline, until suddenly it does not. When disasters hit, when pandemics spread, when too many people get hurt at once, that is when the cracks start to show. Blood banks send out desperate messages. Hospitals start calling nearby cities for help.
And we start with the urgent need for blood. The blood shortage isn't new, but the American Red Cross says there's a desperate demand for the universal blood type O.
There's a national emergency shortage of type O blood, the universal blood type.
Donors wait in long lines, and every single bag of type O blood becomes worth more than gold, because it is the blood that works for almost everyone. The blood that saves lives when nothing else can. The blood that keeps emergency rooms open and operating rooms running. And most people who have it walk around with no idea how much the world is counting on them. If type O is this important in emergencies, if it keeps hospitals running and people alive every single day, then why is nobody talking about what this same blood type is doing inside your brain right now? Protecting it in ways you cannot see or feel. Working quietly for years in the background, doing something most people will not notice until they are much older, and it actually matters? The brain protection. No one talks about. Scientists do not usually like making big claims about blood. It is way too complicated. Too many things can affect the results. Too easy for people to misunderstand what the data actually means. But over the last couple decades, researchers studying dementia and memory loss have noticed something they just cannot ignore anymore. People with type O blood seem to have some kind of advantage when it comes to keeping their brains healthy as they get older. It sounds crazy at first, like blood type is something that only matters when you are getting a transfusion or having a baby, not something that affects how your mind works or how fast you forget things. But the research keeps pointing in the same direction over and over again, no matter who does the studies or where they do them. Multiple studies from different countries have found that people with type O blood have a lower chance of developing serious memory problems and cognitive decline when they age. And this is not just one weird study with bad data. It keeps showing up in research papers published all over the world. Not total protection, not like type O makes you immune to dementia or anything, but a real measurable difference that scientists cannot just ignore. The reason has to do with something called von Willebrand factor, which is a protein that helps your blood clot when you get cut or injured. People with type A, type B, and type AB blood usually have higher levels of this protein floating around in their bloodstream. And when you have more of this clotting protein, research shows it can reduce blood flow in certain parts of your brain over time. Less blood flow means your brain cells are not getting as many nutrients, not getting as much oxygen, dealing with more stress, just trying to function normally. And over the course of decades, this stuff adds up in ways that really matter. Type O people naturally have lower levels of this clotting protein, so their blood flows more easily, more freely, without as much resistance. And that steady, unrestricted flow of blood might be giving their brains a long-term advantage that lasts their whole lives without them ever knowing about it. Researchers first started noticing this pattern when they were studying vascular dementia, which is basically when reduced blood flow damages your brain over time. They kept seeing type O blood show up again and again in the group of older people who stayed mentally sharp, who did not develop major problems. And the pattern was not huge, but it was consistent enough to make them dig deeper. Then similar results started appearing in studies about Alzheimer's disease, and once again, type O individuals were showing up less often in the groups of people who got diagnosed. The effect was not dramatic, not a guarantee that you will never get sick, but it was real, sitting right there in the data, impossible to ignore. This is not the kind of discovery that makes headlines or changes what doctors tell their patients. It does not offer a cure or even a treatment, but it shows something really important about how our biology works underneath everything we can see. Your blood type is not just a random label. It is a whole system of instructions written into every single cell in your body. And those instructions affect way more than anyone ever expected. If type O is this effective in protecting the brain, what does it fail to protect? The hidden weakness. Evolution does not create perfect things. It just creates things that survive long enough to pass on their genes. And survival always comes with trade-offs. Things you gain and things you lose in the process. Type O blood might protect your brain and save lives in emergency rooms. But it also has a weakness that millions of people deal with every day without understanding why it keeps happening to them. The problem hides in your stomach. There is this bacteria called Helicobacter pylori.
Helicobacter pylori, or H. pylori, is a type of bacteria that infects the stomach. H. pylori can also irritate the stomach lining, causing a condition called gastritis. Most people with H. pylori don't experience any symptoms.
And it lives in the digestive system of about half the people on Earth right now. Most of the time, it does not cause any trouble at all. People carry it around for years without pain, without symptoms, without ever knowing it is even there doing its thing. But in some people, this bacteria does way more than just exist quietly. It actually attacks the stomach lining. And it goes after people with type O blood way more aggressively than it goes after anyone else. Researchers have been studying this connection for decades now, and the pattern is impossible to deny or explain away. People with type O blood are way more likely to develop painful bleeding stomach ulcers when they get infected with this bacteria. Not just a little bit more likely, but dramatically more likely. Like the difference is huge. The bacteria seems to recognize something specific on the surface of type O stomach cells, something it can latch onto and exploit. And once it gets a good grip, it starts tearing up the stomach lining in ways that lead to serious, painful ulcers that can last for months or even years. This is not some rare thing that only affects a few people. Millions of people around the world suffer from ulcers caused by this exact bacteria. They deal with burning pain that will not go away, constant nausea, digestive problems that completely disrupt their normal lives. And a huge percentage of them are carrying type O blood without realizing that is part of why they are suffering. So if type O blood was supposedly built for survival, why does it leave people so vulnerable to something as common as a stomach infection that half the planet is already carrying around? The answer comes back to evolution and how environments change faster than biology can keep up. Thousands of years ago, when type O blood was the dominant blood type among early humans, this bacteria probably was not as widespread as it is now. People lived in smaller groups. They did not share food the way we do today. They were not packed into crowded cities, where bacteria spreads easily from person to person through contaminated water and food. The bacteria and the blood type evolved in totally different worlds, and when those worlds collided and changed, the interaction became dangerous in ways nobody could have predicted. Type O blood was designed to fight off parasites, to heal wounds fast, to survive the kinds of infections you would get from living in the wild and eating raw meat. But it was never designed to resist a bacteria that thrives specifically in the modern human stomach. So the exact same blood type that keeps your brain healthy and saves strangers in hospitals also makes your stomach weaker, more reactive, way more likely to develop damage that people with other blood types can resist without even trying. But the stomach is not the only place where type O blood creates serious risk. There is another danger lurking, one that does not come from bacteria or infection at all, one that comes from the blood itself and how it behaves when your body gets injured. And when this problem shows up, it can turn even a small accident into something life-threatening. When bleeding becomes the danger. Blood is supposed to clot. Like that is one of the most basic survival tools your body has built into it. When your skin gets cut, when a blood vessel tears open, when tissue gets damaged in any way, your blood has to stop flowing and seal itself up fast, because if it does not, then even tiny injuries can turn into something that kills you. But not all blood clots the same way. People with type O blood have lower levels of that same protein we talked about earlier, von Willebrand factor, which is the same one that helps protect their brains by keeping blood flowing smoothly without blockages. But when you actually get injured, that advantage flips around and becomes a serious problem. Because von Willebrand factor is also one of the main things your body needs to form clots quickly. When someone with type O blood gets cut, their body still tries to stop the bleeding like normal. Platelets rush to the damaged area. The whole clotting process kicks in automatically, but it all happens slower, less efficiently, and the blood does not seal up the wound as fast as it would in someone with type A or type B blood. For small injuries, this is not really a big deal. Like a paper cut might bleed for a few extra seconds. A scraped knee oozes a little bit longer than usual, and most people never even notice the difference or think twice about it. But in serious trauma situations, those extra seconds actually matter a lot. Car crashes, deep cuts, surgical complications, internal bleeding, childbirth emergencies, any situation where blood loss needs to be controlled immediately becomes way more dangerous for someone carrying type O blood in their veins. Doctors notice this all the time in emergency rooms and operating theaters. Patients with type O blood often need closer monitoring during surgery. They might need extra medications to help their blood clot better. They tend to bleed more during procedures that would be pretty routine and simple for other blood types. And in mass disasters or situations where every single second counts and resources are stretched thin, this slower clotting ability can literally mean the difference between someone surviving or dying right there on the table. The irony is almost cruel when you think about it. Type O blood is the universal donor, the blood type that can save literally anyone else in an emergency. But the actual people who carry it face higher risks when they are the ones who get hurt and need help. But there is more to this story. That same reduced clotting ability also creates a benefit that saves millions of lives, because people with type O blood have way lower chances of developing the kind of dangerous blood clots that kill people every day. Heart attacks caused by clots in arteries, strokes from blockages in the brain, deep vein thrombosis in the legs, pulmonary embolisms in the lungs. All of these deadly conditions happen way less often in people with type O blood. Their blood just flows too freely to form the kinds of clots that suddenly block vital pathways and kill you without warning. So type O blood protects you from some of the biggest killers in modern medicine, while at the same time making traumatic bleeding way more dangerous. It prevents deadly clots inside your arteries while struggling to form helpful clots in your wounds when you actually need them. But there is one version of type O blood that carries an even heavier burden than all the rest. A blood type so rare and so incredibly powerful that hospitals treat every single unit like it is made of gold, and the people who have it live with dangers that nobody else truly understands. O negative, the blood that saves everyone. There are something like 35 different blood type systems that science recognizes, hundreds of different markers and antigens floating around, countless tiny variations between people. But in a real emergency, when someone is dying right in front of you, only one blood type actually matters more than all the others combined. O negative. It gets called the universal donor for a really good reason, because it can be given to literally anyone, any blood type, any patient, any situation. No questions asked, no time wasted running tests, zero risk of the patient's body rejecting it and making everything worse.
Every day, doctors see the life-saving benefit of those who give blood, and O-negative donors are especially important because this rare, universal blood can be used for any patient in need of blood in an emergency situation.
When a kid is dying and there is no time to test what blood type they have, when a trauma victim shows up unconscious and bleeding out fast, when a woman starts hemorrhaging during childbirth, and you have maybe seconds to act before she dies, doctors reach for O-negative blood every single time, because it works for everyone. The reason is that O-negative blood is basically invisible to your immune system. Every other blood type has these markers sitting on the surface of red blood cells, like little protein flags that your body recognizes as either safe or dangerous. If the wrong blood gets pumped into the wrong body, your immune system freaks out and attacks it. The transfusion fails completely, and the patient can actually die from the reaction itself. But O-negative blood has no A marker, no B marker, no Rh factor, literally nothing for your immune system to grab onto and recognize as foreign or threatening. It just slips into any body completely unnoticed, does its job keeping you alive, and leaves zero trace of conflict behind. This makes it hands down the most valuable blood type on the entire planet. Hospitals hoard it like treasure. Blood banks ration it super carefully. Emergency helicopters and ambulances carry it because there is literally no substitute that works as well. In war zones, disaster areas, remote places where testing equipment does not exist, O-negative blood is the only option that works for absolutely everyone, no matter what. But here is where the problem gets really serious. Only about 7% of people in the world have O-negative blood, and in some countries that number drops even lower. So while this blood type can save literally anyone on Earth, the people who actually carry it can only receive blood from other people with O negative, nobody else. Not O positive, not A negative, not any other type at all. Just O negative.
When you need to give blood and don't know what the person's blood type is, you can safely give O because the person will not react to it. The problem is that O negative is only 7% of the population.
This creates a dangerous situation that most people never think about. Millions of patients depend on O negative donors to survive. But those same O negative donors can only depend on each other. And there are never, ever enough of them to go around. When someone with O negative blood needs a transfusion themselves, hospitals face an impossible choice. They can use up their tiny, limited supply, knowing they might desperately need it for some universal emergency later. Or they can delay treatment and just hope more donations show up in time before the patient dies. Being the universal donor sounds like having a superpower, but for the people who actually carry O negative blood in their veins, it feels way more like carrying a burden that nobody warned them about or prepared them for. The burden of being universal. There is this weird loneliness that comes with having O negative blood. Not the kind you can easily explain to other people, not something that shows up in your everyday life, but the kind that hits you hard in crisis moments when you suddenly realize the world depends on you way more than it depends on anyone else. O negative donors get way more calls and texts from blood banks than anyone else. Not once in a while, but constantly, like all the time, because the need for their blood literally never stops, and the number of people who can help is ridiculously small. Some donors end up giving blood every 8 weeks, which is the maximum the law even allows. They schedule appointments over and over. They keep showing up. They roll up their sleeves again and again, not because they want medals or recognition, but because they know exactly what happens if they stop. Surgeries get canceled. Trauma patients have to wait longer for help. Newborns in critical condition face unnecessary dangers, and somewhere in a hospital, they will never visit. Someone might actually die because the blood just was not there when doctors needed it. This pressure is completely invisible to everyone else. Nobody talks about it. Nobody thanks O negative donors any more than they thank regular donors. But the weight is absolutely real, and it gets heavier every single time they see another urgent request pop up on their phone. Then there is the personal risk they carry around every day. When someone with O negative blood needs surgery, gets pregnant, or faces any kind of medical emergency, that safety net protecting everyone else just does not exist for them at all. They can only receive O negative blood, period. And if the hospital does not have enough sitting in storage right then, the options disappear incredibly fast. Doctors try to plan ahead when they can. They ask O negative patients to donate their own blood weeks before scheduled surgeries so it can be saved and given back to them if needed. But emergencies do not wait around for anyone to prepare. And in those terrifying moments, O negative people face a reality that nobody with a common blood type ever has to think about. They genuinely might not get the blood they need to survive. Pregnancy creates even more complications. If an O negative woman is carrying a baby with positive blood, her immune system might start producing antibodies that literally attack the baby's blood cells. And without really careful medical monitoring, this can lead to severe problems or even death for the child. So what does all of this actually mean? And what happens when you finally see type O blood for what it really is? The truth people finally see. Blood type was never supposed to be this important. It was just meant to be another label on a medical chart, some random fact you learn once when you donate blood and then forget about until a doctor asks you years later. But type O blood is way more than just a label. It is a biological gift passed down from the very first humans who had to fight and scrape just to survive in a world that showed zero mercy. It is the invisible foundation holding emergency rooms together when doctors are racing against death, and every second matters. It is the quiet shield protecting brains from breaking down as people get older. Type O blood does not fit into one simple story. It does not give you easy answers or make everything make sense. It is strength and weakness at the exact same time. It is universal, but also limited. It is ancient, but also completely essential to modern life. The people walking around with it have no idea what is actually flowing through their veins right now. They donate blood without realizing the entire system is basically depending on them to keep showing up. They grow older without knowing their brains might be getting protected in ways other people do not experience. They deal with painful ulcers without ever connecting the dots back to their blood type. And they bleed just a little bit longer after getting hurt, without understanding why. And the people carrying O-negative blood have it the hardest of anyone. They are the universal donors who cannot get universal help back. They are the safety net, with absolutely no safety net underneath them. They are the 7% holding up the entire emergency medical system on their shoulders without most people even noticing. This is the truth that stays hidden from almost everyone. And now you can see it too. Next time you walk past a hospital, next time you hear about a blood drive happening somewhere, next time someone randomly mentions their blood type in conversation, you will know something they probably do not. That type O blood is not just sitting there flowing through veins, doing nothing special. It is quietly holding the entire world together, one donation, one emergency, one invisible protection at a time. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.